You know what? God likes consistency.
Yeah.
You look at the Bible and phrases that are used over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even just like it with worship, what does it say about worship in heaven?
Yeah. Holy, holy, holy.
This is the Lord God Almighty who was and is to come. Holy, over and over and over. He likes
Yeah.
consistency. So there's something to that. And, even though to me, they sounded like, oh, I'm saying the same thing every day, God
Yeah.
has honored the consistency.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Finding Jesus. I'm Jordan, your host, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Shelly Mitchell. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I do have to say that growing up, Shelly was like the famous person that I felt like we kind of knew from a distance. We were kind of in the same circles with church. And I just remember not idolizing, but I was kind of
wow.
like starstruck because I listened to Shelly Mitchell on the radio when it was 91.9 New Life. This was before K-Love took over. And so whenever we would be at like church functions or worship services, I would be like, that's Shelly who's on the radio.
That's crazy.
So it is crazy, I know, but I did kind of like geek out over, just being around you because it was very different then. Now a lot of people have podcasts. A lot of people can put their information out on YouTube or social media, so you get a chance to hear a lot of different voices. But at that time, I even remember going to like baseball games where New Life was like hosting and putting on, things, concerts afterwards. And it was just really cool to kind of know you. So this is like a big deal for me just to have you with us
Thank
today.
you.
So.
I'm honored. That's just it's crazy to hear those stories because I never really think that way. I've known you, and we've just always been friends, and you've been sort of a distant role model, I guess, for my daughters, and just watching you and your family and your ministry, and just it's just been. It's fun to hear those kinds of things.
It is. And well, you were just telling us downstairs, the fact that you've done this longer than I've been alive, you said, I mean, gosh, because that's going on like 30 plus years.
Yeah, it's
37 years.
35, 37, yeah.
Yeah, without giving away too much about either of our ages. So you've done it for a long time. So obviously I've already kind of, spoiler alert, told everybody that you were in radio. But tell everybody a little bit more about your history and the roles that you play.
Well, I mean, obviously my number one is I'm a wife and a mother. Mm-hmm. That's, as a little girl, I could think of one thing that I wanted to be all my life, and that was to be a mother.
Yeah.
And now I am blessed with 3 beautiful children. They're 24, almost 25, 23, and almost 16.
Wow.
So they're not little anymore like yours.
So hard to believe.
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, so that is my life, and the radio and anything else I've ever done has been around that.
Yeah, secondary.
Yeah, secondary.
Yeah.
So even with the radio stuff, which I still do, it's very flexible and allows me to involve my kids and my family. And my husband's always been, he was one of the radio husbands, So we would do those events that you talked about, and he was the one carrying ladders and putting up banners and things like that. So he's always been a part of it too. And
I don't think we realize what a blessing it is when we can find jobs like that.
Yeah.
When you're able to find a job that fits into what your true purpose is.
Oh, I know. And I was just thinking about that recently, about how God has given me right now a desire in my heart that not only did I not know I had, but I didn't know I would want. It wasn't even a desire that I could even imagine, and that is to be able to work from home, have this flexible schedule, do what I love, and still be there for my son who's homeschooling high school now, for my granddaughter, is I'm able to just drop my work and go help my daughter with her. And, it's God knew that one day that would be a desire of my heart. And so he went ahead and just gave it to me.
Yeah. Just laid it all out for you.
And he just worked it all out.
Yeah.
And it's just blown my mind up thinking about that lately.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think, we all think back about the year 2020 and how terrible COVID was. But I think if one, like God works all things together
Yeah.
for good.
Right.
And if there's one thing that I could kind of pinpoint was that was a good thing that you did, God,
Yeah.
was allowing people to work from home.
Yeah, he sent us all home to our families.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we had, as a culture, had gotten so far away from that, where it was like, it's just normal that you leave your family 40, 50, 60 hours a week and let somebody else raise your children for you. And that's not normal.
No, it's not. And I can't imagine not doing it this way.
Yeah.
I mean, technology, it's like you said, it was just the perfect storm, for lack of a better word. It just, everything synced up, and it just works now that we're able to do these jobs with technology where it is. I mean, look at us.
Yep.
We're doing this, what used to be a television thing.
Yeah.
That you could only do in a studio.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's crazy how far we've come with this, that it allows us the freedom.
Yeah. It's a little bit scary sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's really cool when it's used for the glory of God.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you're able to do things and it's like, God, I could not imagine doing this
Yeah.
other ways.
Not
it's just
only are we
neat.
able to reach the masses, but more of us
Yeah.
are able to reach the masses.
Yeah.
So it's,
That's so true. I wonder sometimes, just like side note, I wonder if that's kind of what Jesus meant, when he was on the earth and he was like, you'll do greater things than I have. Because I'm like, God, how could we possibly do greater things than Jesus did? Like he literally raised the dead.
Right.
What's bigger than that?
Yeah.
But then I think about the tools that we've been given just as things have progressed. And the fact that you can, we can reach people on the other side of the world right now.
Right.
I mean, he could have like teleported, I guess, and he could have done all of those things, but it's just neat that he's given us tools that we can do that now. So
who knows, in 30 years we may be teleporting.
right. Yeah,
You
there's no
just never
telling.
know,
So
right.
so you kind of said like now your role is you're still doing radio, which you can kind of do on your time because things can be recorded
Right.
and used
Right.
later. You're homeschooling.
I am.
And then you keep your grandchild a lot, right?
I do.
Or you help
I
a
spend a lot
lot.
of time with her. Yeah, we help a lot. But I also have a full-time job that's not even related to radio, so I work that at
Oh my
home.
word.
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm in. It's telecom. It's so part of my job is using my voice, but it's a large compliance company that we have call centers
Yeah.
all over the world, and we support the call centers. So my very small part of this company is I handle a lot of the foreign languages, and then I do the voices, the English voice for
Wow.
these lines. So I'm still using my voice.
Yeah.
But it is a full-time job, and I'm
That's
in
so
fact the
cool.
whole company is pretty much at home now
Yeah.
because of, like you said, what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And everybody was sent home, and we all, I mean, we're talking about thousands of employees
Wow.
who are now at home working.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't even
Yeah.
know that. And it's so funny because you like list out all these things that you're still
Yeah.
doing. And I'm like, when do you sleep? That's the question people ask me all the time is like, when do you sleep?
Right.
But I think that women are just kind of wired like that.
Yeah.
In fact, like one of our very first episodes was about the roles that we play. And as women, it just seems like we do so much. Because even beside that, you also have a big role in like the church, the local church. And you were just talking about worship and the new church plant that you guys have. And tell us a little bit more about that. Like your family is musically inclined.
Yeah, they're all talented musically. My son is he's almost 16 in a few weeks. He plays drums. He's a very good drummer. He's taught himself to play guitar,
Wow.
other things like that. My middle daughter, she's actually a missionary. She is in Central Asia right now, very sensitive part of the world, and she's there she's been there since January, and so she'll be there until December. And she comes home so happy. I miss her. But yeah, so she's very musical, taught herself to play lots of instruments, especially the keyboard. My oldest daughter is the mother of Dove. She's a wife. She and her husband do the children's ministry at the new church campus, and she's a dancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I was thinking the other day about when they were younger.
Yeah.
And you and your sisters would dance, and we would come up and visit, and they would dance with you.
Yeah. And we taught them the Revelation song dance.
Yeah.
and-
You know, Rebecca just taught that to her kids at church.
That's so
I mean, a
cool.
variation of that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so neat. So your whole family is like not only musically inclined, but like ministry inclined.
Yeah, they love serving.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And honestly, I mean, I think that even more so than like seeing you on radio or hearing you on radio all those years ago, one thing that I so admire about you is your children, and like how you've raised them to walk out their faith and that they do have hearts to serve, not just people, but to serve God. They really do have hearts for Jesus. So it's really kind of beautiful to watch.
Yeah, they're that was one thing that that we tried to do with them more than anything was just give them opportunities to serve.
Yeah.
That would be my advice to any mom is, find a church where your kids can serve. I mean, it's important that we, of course, serve, but they grow up learning that the church belongs to them.
Yeah.
They don't have to wait until they're 18 voting members of this church to, help usher or serve on the worship team or whatever. And, that's what I would say. Find a church where your kids are allowed to serve. And if they're not allowed to serve at your church, you might want to think about finding one, because people ask me, how do you keep your kids, engaged during those years where they, especially right out of high school, let them serve, let them grow up being a part of the body of Christ and being used in ministry.
Yeah, it gives them a sense of purpose and of belonging, and it connects them to the family. We have a couple of house churches, and that's been like a theme that we've talked about lately, is just that God has put gifts and abilities in each of us. And in America, the church here is kind of like, I don't know, we've done a disservice to people by allowing people to just come and be consumers. And so when we make it where, there's one man who hears from God
serves,
and when everybody's not playing their part, then it's no wonder that we just kind of like flip Christians around and we're like, I'll go over here for a little while, go here a little while. Well, it's because we're not really connected to the body and functioning as the part of the body that we were created for. And the church really suffers, because you have something to offer that I don't, and if you're not walking in your gifts and in your abilities, then we're all kind of suffering for it. So
and at the very least, we have experiences. That like I have experiences that you don't, and you have experiences that I don't, and we work together, to solve a new problem or a new issue because of our joined experiences. And kids are no different. They need to learn to work those things out that come up in the church or in their walk with the Lord, and walk it out with adults, because adults have gone through things, and so they're following in the footsteps of the adults that they see. And if we don't model it for them and allow them to walk through that, then at some point they turn 18 and we just throw them out there. And
then we wonder why they kind of like fall away, as they're
Yeah.
like going off to college and kind of finding their own path. It's we never really gave them a solid path
It's
to follow.
them working out their own salvation. It really is. It's them learning to cultivate their own relationship with Jesus. I'll never forget a time I asked my girls, I picked them up from school. They were like in middle school, like 11, 12. And we're riding in the car, and I said, girls, what would you do if Dad and I stopped serving God? If we just one day decided we're not going to go to church, what would you do? And they thought about it, and they're like, well, I guess we would keep going, because they need to develop their own relationship with Jesus and learn to serve him in their own way, and not just do it because Mom and Dad do it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something we don't think about. We think they're going because we make them go, but at some point it crosses over.
And we're not there to make them anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So then it's their choice.
Yeah.
I'm like over here, I wish I had a notepad to like furiously take notes, because our oldest is 13. So our kids are younger, but I know that we'll approach that really quickly, where it's like, this has to become their relationship, and you can't just kind of piggyback on what Mom and Dad have done.
Right.
Which is easy for kids to do, because so often we're focused on our own walk and what we're doing, and we're just kind of letting our kids trail behind. But at some point we have to start thinking, okay, what is this going to look like when I'm no longer there to say you have to go to church unless you're throwing up or have a fever?
Right.
Like, what about when it becomes becomes their choice. You mentioned experiences, which that's a big thing for us in our home. Is we constantly pray like, God, let our children really experience and encounter you, like through worship and through prayer and through time that they spend with you. Because I know for me as a child, that's kind of what marked me. Was I encountered God's presence, and like I felt Him and like heard His voice at a young age. So as I got older, it didn't really matter what came against me or what tried to talk me out of that. I was like, no, like I've heard God, like I've met with Him, so you can't take that from me. But I'm curious, are there experiences throughout your life that you kind of look back to and you're like, no, these were like defining moments for me, or these are like big moments that I was like, okay, absolutely, this is like God kind of directing my steps or guiding my path, or even as your family as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a day-to-day thing, that when you're walking with the Lord, I don't have these magical words to say, okay, do this, and then every day forward will be, good, and your children will follow the Lord, and your marriage will be strong. It literally is a day-to-day thing.
Yeah.
And knowing that there are children watching you, obviously,
Yeah.
I can tell you many times that the first thought was, I've got to get this right.
Yeah.
Because they're watching me. And there was one point in particular that I can think of that we were going through, some church stuff, and I remember I had failed in the past when things happen, and you can look back and you can say to yourself, maybe the reason that situation I was in was so bad, and I have such bad memories of it, was because maybe I handled it wrong.
Right.
And you start kind of look at it differently. So say the next time that similar situation comes along, you think, okay, I'm going to do it differently this time. And that was where I was in this particular circumstance, was that I looked back on those other times that had happened, and junk happens all the time. It just, especially if you're in ministry.
Yeah, we're
Things
messy.
happen. It's hard.
We're just messy.
We're messy, and you're dealing with imperfect people trying to present this perfect gospel, and we fumble it. We mess it up all the time. But when I look back at that, I thought, okay, my kids are at an age where if I don't get this right, they very easily could just go off.
Yeah.
And they were watching me.
Yeah, to see how you would respond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I did it differently. And I pressed through it. And I kept my eyes focused on God and focused on what He had called me to do, and not what was going on around me. And I really felt like God just took us right through that.
Yeah.
It really was like a Red Sea moment.
Yeah.
He just took us right through it. And so now there have been a couple of times since then that something has happened, and it's like, okay, now I know what to do.
Yeah.
Now I know. And there have been a couple of times since that my kids now, as adults in ministry,
They're starting to witness
they're
it.
starting to see things like that, and I'm able to say to them, okay, you remember when we did this? This is what we did. This is how you got through it.
Yeah.
And I'm watching them do it. And
Yeah.
it's very satisfying to see when you, as an adult, you learn
Yeah.
from those mistakes in
Right.
the past. And God will get you through anything.
Yeah.
No matter how you handle it. If you're walking with a pure heart, trying to do the right thing, even if you mess that up, He's going to work it out for your good.
Yeah.
But knowing how to handle things in a better way, sometimes it makes it just a lot easier.
It does. Well, and how beautiful then when we're able to see our kids grasp those things
Yes.
so much earlier in life,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
your kids are adults, but they're young adults.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're getting an opportunity to live that out and put that into practice, and they're not having to wait until they're, 30, 40, 50 to be like, oh, maybe I should handle this differently.
Right.
Not that they'll be perfect, but it's just neat how God created us kind of generationally, where our ceiling becomes their floor.
Yeah.
And that's our prayer for our kids a lot. We heard this great song by I think it's Benjamin William Hastings, and it's a father's prayer, but one of the lines is that that our ceiling would be their floor. And we hear that a lot, like in a secular world, but even more so in the faith, that where we stop is just going to be a launching pad for them into what life looks
That's
like.
good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Yes. Well, you've covered a lot of, the things that I was curious about. I know you've already shared a little bit about your kids and the ministry roles that they play. And you were talking about, just seeking after God. But do you have any advice for moms who are kind of in the thick of raising multiple children? How do we stay in God's presence and in God's will, even in the middle of busyness, like how do we stay sensitive to what God's doing in our lives, and how do we kind of keep that as a focus when we're pulled in so many different directions?
Pray. There's a lot
Yeah.
of prayer. I think as moms, we beat ourselves up a lot
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And I know I do that. Even now, I'll go to bed and I think, oh,
Could have done that
could have
differently.
done that differently. Why did I say that? Tonight I'll be going to bed. I go,
Yeah.
oh, why did I say that?
Or even when you were
Yeah.
talking about, them watching us, I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's so much pressure.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
lot of pressure knowing that little
Yeah.
ones are watching you.
Right. It is. But it's good pressure.
Yeah.
It's good pressure. But I think just allowing yourself some grace,
Yeah.
trying not to beat yourself up so bad at the end of the day. It is good to learn from mistakes, so it's good to make mistakes because that's where we learn. But just trying to enjoy even those hard times, trying not to rush ahead and think, oh, I'll be so glad when, my son will be able to get up and put his own shoes on.
Sleep through the night.
Sleep through the night. Yeah, start there. Yeah, my son was 6 before he slept through the
Oh
night.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just speaking right to me. Judah
Oh,
still doesn't
no.
sleep through the night.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, what am I going to do when I get a full night's sleep?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to know what to do with myself.
Yeah, so it's just try not to be so hard on yourself. Allow yourself some grace. Give yourself the same grace you would give to someone else.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to give grace
Oh, yeah.
to other people, and just like I said, try to enjoy it. Try to enjoy every stage, and don't let people scare you.
Yeah.
I know with like I heard so many people say, "Oh, they're fun now. Wait till they get to be teenagers."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, no, I'm not gonna be afraid of the teenage years.
Yeah.
And I would just pray for them every day. Just pray, speak blessings, speak life over your kids every day.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, the teenage years were my favorite.
Yeah.
They really were. They still are. My son, they were great. They don't
Yeah.
have to be what the world says that they're going to be.
I feel like we just need to blast that out
Yeah.
over and over because you're right. People love telling you their horror stories.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to like doomsday prep you
Yeah,
for like,
yeah.
oh, it's going to get bad. We hear that now with Mira, oh, terrible twos. And then we hear it with the ones that we have approaching teenage years. And we'll have 4 teenagers at one time, So it's a little bit intimidating when the world has prepped you for, oh, this is going to be horrible.
Don't let the world scare you.
No, because it doesn't have to be that way.
It does not have to be like that. Now, obviously, every child is an individual, and they're going to make their own decisions on their own, regardless of what you do sometimes. But you know what? God is in control, and He knows, and we can just trust Him with our kids as much as we trust Him with anything else.
Yeah.
And speak life. Like I said, speak life over your kids every single day. Pray. Be consistent in the things you pray for your kids. I know that some people say, well, don't sound like a broken record, pray for the same things over and over. Be different and really engage in your prayers. I'm like, you know what? God likes consistency.
Yeah.
You look at the Bible and phrases that are used over and over. I mean, even just like it with worship, what does it say about worship in heaven?
Yeah. Holy, holy, holy.
This is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Holy, over and over and over. He likes consistency. So there's something to that. And, even though to me, they sounded like, oh, I'm saying the same thing every day. God has honored the consistency.
Well, even in prayers, we see that, when was it the woman who came to the wicked judge and was like asking for justice, and he was like, I'm going to give her what she wants because she keeps on nagging me.
Yeah.
And then, there's, I think it's in Daniel, where they were praying, and the angel finally said, I was trying to come to you, but the Prince of Persia was stopping me. And if it wasn't for the fact that you had kept on persisting in prayer, he probably wouldn't have answered that prayer.
Right.
So that's really powerful reminders, and I think it's good advice for me as a mom, just to be consistent in prayer and to lift my children up. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually this morning, God laid it on my heart to write down specific prayers for our kids to post in my little prayer closet.
That's good, yeah.
And I thought the same thing. I was like, God, maybe I shouldn't do this, because then I'm just going to be praying the same prayer every day. But he was like, no, these are good prayers.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
good.
Because it builds faith for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Our prayers are not just so God will give us what we want.
No, it changes us more than it changes him.
us. He already knows.
Yeah.
He already knows what we need. He already knows what we're going to pray.
Yeah.
It's for us that builds our faith.
Yeah.
And for me, I can look back now on almost 25 years of praying for my oldest daughter certain things.
Yeah.
Almost every day of her life, and I'm seeing these things now happen.
Yeah.
And the things that I prayed for her all those years, she's now walking in them.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if like, okay, God's released me from praying those things now, but I still want to pray them.
Yeah, because you just got
and
so
now
used
I'm
to
praying
it.
them over my granddaughter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, it works. Let's do it now for her.
Right.
And so,
Oh, that's so perfect. We just recorded an episode about building faith and how it's important for us to remind ourselves and others what we've seen God do, because it does. It builds your faith, and it makes me feel like, okay, well, God, you did that for Shelly, so you'll do that for me. So that's so good. Well, I'm so thankful that you've been here with us today. It really has been
honored.
great.
Thank you.
And I feel like this will be something that I go back and watch over and over. I do just want to say, if you have gleaned something from this, definitely like the video and share it with other moms who might be trying to raise world changers, like Shelly obviously has, and has just given us such wisdom this morning for that. But also, do me a favor and drop the names of your kids in the comments below, because I know that both of us would love to stand with you and pray over your children. So we're grateful that you've spent time with us today, and we'll see you next time here on Finding Jesus.